Hey, welcome back. A little bit different of an episode today. It's Tuesday evening. Not really feeling live to play a live game. So instead, I thought I would take a game I recently played on my main account. So not the Pint City chess account, but my primary account, MountainCandy. Instead of a blitz game, it's going to be a rapid game. For those that are unfamiliar with the different formats, you've got bullet chess, which is the fastest. Technically, there's ultra bullet. I've never dabbled in that, but or hyper bullet. Bullet is 1 minute, and 1 minute with a 2-second increment, which is what I play. That's my casual. Don't care if I win or lose. Just trying to enjoy the game. You've got blitz chess, which is either 3 or 5 minutes with an increment. Rapid is 10 minutes or 15 minutes with or without the increment. I think for this format, I played a 10-minute game with no increment, which sometimes at the end of those games, you do get into a kind of a time scramble. So those that do have either bullet or blitz experience can have a slight advantage depending on where the game is materially. I was approaching 1,500. I've since lost maybe a couple of games, but this isn't one that I play a whole lot of. Don't play a lot of rapid games just because I do try to protect that rating. And I truly do try to digest and learn each game inside and out, what I could have done better, etc. I was particularly proud of this game. Not to have a spoiler here, but basically the synopsis was I got caught out of book pretty early on and really found myself on the back foot, having to defend, having to hunker down, and just going attack after attack of having to play defense. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into this game. Opponent started off e4. As I've shown in all my blitz games, I've been playing the Taimanov. So you'll see that opening here. But opponent goes for the Alapin, which this is actually my response to the Sicilian as well. And the only thing that I really know about the Alapin is this d5 move is maybe not the only response, but it is one of the few accepted responses. Opponent pushes, and I'm kind of out of book because most of the time I'm used to opponent pushing the queen's pawn. And I'm somewhat familiar with this line, but I don't know how to actually get out of this analysis. How do I get out of the analysis? Okay, we'll pick it up from there. I evidently don't know how to get out of analysis mode, so we'll try not to do that again. But ultimately, I push this pawn. He pushes, and I aim to continue my Taimanov, whether that was right or wrong. So at this point, it's equal material. He pushes in the center. I know to take. And I've got a somewhat... this is a French, if I'm not mistaken, with like an advanced French. So, not super familiar with the French. And I kind of continue playing the Taimanov, whether I should or shouldn't. Honestly, just don't know if these moves are very good in this line because I'm essentially playing the advanced French, and I don't know if that's an effective approach when you combine some of the moves of this Taimanov. Opponent is naturally developing pieces, as am I. I thought it might be a good idea for a minute to advance this bishop, potentially looking at developing this knight this way because I do not have the normal square for the knight. That said, he castles, and I don't want to necessarily trade off the bishop. Bishop for knight is typically not the best idea, but I was trying to come up with a game plan here. So I did attempt to continue developing pieces so I could castle, as anticipated. I was trying to kick out my bishop or make a decision here. So I'm left with, do I want to take this knight. If I did, it would create a strong pawn chain that's controlling the center. I'm trying to calculate, okay, what happens if I push back? He attacks, is this going to get trapped? And I said, well, no, I've got these escape squares. I think I'm in decent shape. The knight has a free square here that it's not going to get stuck. So it's got one of two different moves it could make. So I was somewhat comfortable of pushing back, saying, okay, are you going to attack my bishop again? Opponent did. So I moved back again. And this is actually kind of working out for my favor because I am attacking the base of this pawn chain a couple of times. However, it is being defended a couple of times, so I would need additional help before that becomes a threat. Opponent attacks again. I don't think that was necessarily the best move from their perspective. It does allow me to gain this open file for my rook. So I happily took. Opponent took. You can see that my queen is under attack. And this is kind of the first move of me being on the back foot. You can see in this meter over here that I am down one piece of material according to the engine. Again, I'm not seeing this during the live game, so I'm feeling like I've made a pretty good move in opening up that file. But as you'll see over the next several moves, I really start to get suffocated in my own defensive rank. So I move back. It's really one of the only squares that I have available. I don't want to block in this bishop. So I do move back, and this is also a common idea in the Taimanov. However, I think this diagonal is typically available for the queen to enjoy. Opponent moves here, which you can see puts me in check. It does also attack this bishop. And I have nothing to capture this knight with, so it's not like I have a knight trade opportunity because it is being defended by this pawn. So I just have to suck it up and say, okay, where am I putting this king? So I thought for a bit, and you definitely don't want to block in this rook. I was thinking, okay, maybe eventually I can push that g-pawn and maybe tuck in my king there. Should be fairly safe from attack across this long diagonal because of the two bishops here. So that was my plan. Opponent then moves here, and you'll see that both of these knights attack the vulnerable f7 pawn. And so, again, I'm feeling the urgency to make a very abrupt move here to stop all this from happening. So I make a backwards knight move. You can see that I'm starting to suffocate myself, but I am defending this pawn a couple of times with my knight and my king. And all the while, this bishop is under attack, which is fine. I'm almost hoping that he's taking my bishop at this point. Opponent does look to... I don't know if this was like a long-term investment because this file is definitely closed. I was wondering if it would be better to push this pawn and perhaps put the bishop on this diagonal, which I don't know if that necessarily works out, but it does look like it would further support the knight that's in a phenomenal position right now. I'm looking to remove that knight, so the idea here is attacks, captures, captures, and captures. So he ends up taking my bishop, which honestly was a relief. I happily recapture. Opponent pins my bishop to my queen. So I remain in danger. I'm trying to remember what happens next. I would imagine I'm thinking about how do I kick this knight from this position, but I do prioritize removing myself from the pin. And here comes the attack once more. I'm expecting this, followed by this. So I go to block the attack, which does a couple things. It stifles the opponent from being able to push this pawn further. It maintains the support on this pawn a few different ways. And you can see that this is still blocked off, so the bishop's not getting through anytime soon. Opponent makes a developing move, a natural move, but I don't know what it's doing in the immediate term. So I go to push this this pesky knight. He has to retreat. All right. I'm looking to put pressure on this base of this pawn chain. So I'm thinking about these ideas here. However, you can see that opponent is equally defending the pawn, so it's not a real threat as of right now. This is where it started to get a bit dicey. So you can see that opponent makes a very aggressive move, pushes the pawn in front of the king, so it definitely does create kind of a vulnerability. I do have a pretty natural escaping square here, and that's the move that I make. And opponent just begins to push pawns. However, I think this might have been a mistake because I see an opportunity to get a material advantage. I think he pushed the wrong pawn. I trade pawns with him, but you can see I now have 2 attackers to opponent's 1 defender. And so I do capture with my queen with the hope that opponent captures and we can just settle down, especially with the vulnerability of my position. I think this was the right move to make. However, he decides to sidestep, offers the trade. But I do see a tactic here. Wasn't sure how he was going to respond. If you see the tactic, it doesn't necessarily win any pieces as you'll see. But if you play this move here, definitely don't want to play that move, which is under the guard of the bishop. But the idea here is I've got the king in check, simultaneously attacking opponent's knight. All they have to do, though, is move here. And I did decide I needed to trade queens in this position. I don't know if this works to the opponent's advantage better or not compared to the previous position, but it is further removing any sort of protection from that back rank. So at this point, I feel like we're pretty safe. I begin my attack. And so I ask the knight, okay, where are you going to go? He moves here. And if I remember right, I wasn't in a hurry to trade pieces, especially since I didn't want to necessarily open up this position too much. So instead, I resume my attack on the base of this pawn chain, really the foundation of the opponent's position. He defends quite easily. I put another attacker, so I've got 3 different attackers. But opponent makes a clever move here. So simultaneously attacking my piece, this piece here. So I have to make a decision. I decide to move it back and attack him. If he takes, I take him, reinforce my control of the center as well. Opponent clamps down the position. So didn't make any progress there. I decided to trade. Let's take a look at time. I've got 5 minutes. He's got 7 minutes, so I'm slightly behind on the clock. There's no increment here. And from here, what did we do? I think I was trying to prioritize getting off this line because I was anticipating that, followed by this. I wanted to make sure that I was going to be in the clear there. I'm fully aware that I'm stepping into this, which I think that does come into play sooner than later. Opponent decides to go here. Move this up a bit. And I'm trying to think what the thought was. In fact, I know I had to make a couple specific moves, and I think I did find a tactic in this position or here in the next couple of moves. So before I move back, I don't quite remember what my thinking was, but I remember thinking I need to protect this knight because I think I had eyes on... I knew that I had eyes on moving back this bishop. I can't quite remember my mentality, though. Because it is being attacked twice. So a move before attack, there, and then there. So, had my wits about me, protected the piece. And again, opponent applies pressure. Can't move here because of the bishop, so I'm forced to move back. I decided to connect the the rooks. So I'm kind of back to square one, and this is where I start to look for a tactic, and in fact, I see one. And the tactic that I see is if I take this pawn, opponent cannot take here because of the pin. However, can't quite make this move yet because if I were to capture this pawn, that would leave this bishop hanging. So I'm thinking ahead. I need to tuck this this bishop back. In fact, I think that's why, or one of the reasons why I didn't move this rook to this square. You can also see my clock is getting a bit low, down to a little bit less than 4 minutes. Opponent remains on this diagonal, and I'm kind of hoping and praying that that does remain the case. So in fact, this move, I do move back, preparing for this tactic. And opponent does not see it and kind of reinforces or doubles down. So I get excited, I play the tactic, and then this changes the material advantage to 2.42 on the board. I'm also attacking this rook. I'm expecting this move here, and if that were the case, I would move back. Also factor in, at some point I need to move this piece if the king ever gets itself off of this diagonal. The bishop goes back. I don't know if that was just, let's see how. The opponent thought for a good while. That was a 30-second think. Decides to move back. I don't know necessarily what the thinking there is. I think I did have a tactic that I missed. If I went here, that would have forked the king and rook. I did miss the... No, I just got captured. That was the issue. I could have done it with that fancy capture, but didn't need to in this case. Opponent does put me in check. I just drop back. I probably should have gotten myself off of that diagonal, which could at any point open up. Opponent moves here and does in fact put my my knight in trouble. However, for some reason, I wonder if it would have been better for me to simply support it with this pawn. Instead, I am kind of worried about the clock. I moved way too soon, although it was 30 seconds on the clock, but somehow just completely missed this. But I think this was actually a really good move in disguise. You can see that the material is starting to disappear. So if there's any trade to be made, even if I go down the exchange, that's going to do me some good. You know, I've got a whole nother rook and some pawns on my side. So this was effectively a blunder, but honestly, I don't mind. I go from a 7-point material advantage to a 5-point material advantage. I'm feeling pretty good about that. I also have the benefit of having a discovered check available to me. I do think that the opponent does get off of the discovered check. And from here, it's like, okay, what is the cleanup? I think I might have been looking at once and for all taking care of this. But if I were to do that, that would leave this pawn hanging. So I need to do that very carefully. So I put the opponent in check first. And then I need to reinforce, pointing at the screen, I need to reinforce that pawn, which I do so this way. Now the opponent is looking to run its only, I don't know if that's considered a pass pawn because I do have this pawn here. But it's effectively looking to get into this position. I don't know how it's getting through here without the help of this rook. So I don't know exactly what I was thinking here, but applying some pressure. I've got 2 minutes on the clock, just trying to get the opponent to make a mistake. I also saw this. If memory serves me right, I'm attacking, but also having a forking opportunity to, again, trade some pieces. Opponent sees the tactic, I think, and I'm looking for additional forks. I don't see one. So I think this was simply just a gathering move, trying to escort some pawns up the board. I've got a 3-on-1 advantage here against this pawn. I'm also trying to get myself off of this diagonal. Opponent moves here, so I've got to obviously move. But in doing so, I'm now attacking this pawn twice. Opponent doesn't do anything about it. I have a couple ways that I can attack. I do think that I went with the more conservative of the two options. So if I take here, I've got this knight under attack. So I kind of went a Timpy there. So I take, he takes, which is like, this should be game over at this point. I clean up, finally get that center pawn, and really should be winning this game really easily at this point. And if I was smart, I would have played this move up, this move back, this move up, and have that as my core formation to just basically everything's defending everything at that point. I didn't do that. I don't know if I had the luxury of time, but obviously need to. I think I should have tucked that back. Instead, I do this single move threat, which does give the opponent an opportunity to begin pushing that pawn. So I think I made an okay move here. So I lock in these two pieces, but again, really give this pawn an opportunity to do something that I don't want it to do. A good move would have been to push this rook up, I think, just to prevent the king from being able to get in there. But instead, I get behind my pawn. I don't think this was the right move at all. King moves up. I think it's really just looking at ways to dislodge this rook. And at this point, I'm getting a little bit nervous about the clock. I've got a minute 45, but I mean, I should have this game locked up. Even if I need to sacrifice a bishop or something, I should be able to clean this up. I go here, opponent goes here. I see something. I'm like, okay, he's going to take that pawn. So I definitely don't want to move back and give him a chance to infiltrate this way. So I say, okay, you're in check. If you capture, I'm going to capture as well. And that's going to kind of be the end of your promoting chances. He decides to move back. And I decide to continue my attack, continue to push these pawns. We trade. Now I can work these pawns up the board. Now he moves here. I begin to push. He moves back to allow for this discovery. I move back. He puts me in check. I sidestep the check. He attacks this pawn. And I push this pawn. Opponent cannot take because of the pin. And I'm simultaneously defending. So I thought that was a pretty clever move, especially with 45 seconds on the clock. I found that in 5 seconds. And I know for sure on the next move I can take that pawn. Opponent makes a mistake though. I think he blunders and allows me to capture with check. And if he takes the pawn, I gobble up. Well, in any event, I'm taking that rook, and it's just lights out. So that is where the game ended. If I do the formal game review, it says, let me see what's showing up on the screen. Let me move some stuff around. 81% accuracy. So I'm satisfied with that. You can see that, let's see, the opponent had a slight advantage throughout the opening and middle game, and it wasn't until, I think it was this, the tactic, again, I think I might be in the way here. It wasn't until this tactic here that the opponent starts to lose the advantage. Let's see where I can put myself where I'm not in the way. How about that? And at the end of the day, it says I played at the level of a 1650, which I love seeing that. It's well above my current strength. A bit of a dicey opening, but played a much better middle game. So yeah, I think I learned a lot from that game. It was the resilience. It was the defending. It did say I had a couple of misses, a couple of those knight forks that I might have missed. But in any event, I was very proud. It was a tough opponent, and edges me closer and closer to that 1500, which I've never achieved in my short chess career. So I think that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching if you've made it this far, and I hope to catch you next time. Take care.